بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام بن محمد ومن تبعهم بإحسان يوم الدين. Alhamdulillah. In this video here, inshallah, we're going to be speaking about الفعل المضارع, the present slash future tense verb. More specifically, how to conjugate it very briefly. So in a previous video, I explained how the fi'l mudara functions, certain things that are going to happen in terms of the morphology of the actual word. And here is going to be sort of going for an example of that. So this video is really meant to be studied or to be watched with the previous video about how the fi'l mudara, the present tense verb in the Arabic language, functions. So when you conjugate, for example, the verb ذهب, ذهب in the past tense, it means he went. ذهب. When I put into the mudara, I know that pretty much there's going to be two things that are going to happen, mainly. Some other things, but two things that's always going to happen is that there's going to be one of the huruf al-mudara that are going to be placed at the beginning of it, which is either a ya, or a ta, or a hamza, or a noon. So that's the first thing that's going to happen to the original form, if you will, which is the past tense, which is dhahaba. The second thing that's going to happen is that there's going to be some changes that are going to happen to the radicals of the word. So the fa kalima is going to take a sukun, as you can see. Then the lam kalima, which is the last letter of the verb, is going to usually take one of the signs of the Arab, or as you can see, sometimes there's going to be a noon and an alif that's going to be added to it, or a noon and a waw that's going to be added to the end of the verb, or sometimes it's going to be a noon and a ya that's going to be added to the end of the verb. And we're going to go in details on that also. And then the ainul kalima, which is the middle of which is the middle letter of the verb. In here, it's ha. This letter here, it's either going to change or stay the same depending on which group it is, as we covered in the previous video. If it's part of group E, it can either be EA, ma becomes ya'alamu, or EE, hasiba stays as hasiba, or UU, always UU. قرب يقرب, or if it's part of group A, it can be AE ضرب يضرب, AU نصر ينصر, or AA فتح يفتح. So you have to look at which group the verb is part of to make sure you know how to conjugate it. Now, ذهب is part of group AA, which means that ذهب, the ayn kalima was the ha there, it stays also fatha, يذهب. طيب. So for huwa, how you do it is that you add a ya at the beginning, and that's pretty much it. Then you put a sukun on the fa kalima, you change or you keep the ayn kalima the same depending on which group it's part of. It becomes yadhabu, which means he is going. If I change the ya to a ta, it means hiya, tadhabu. And I can do this with any verb that I want. So I could take, for example, the verb alima, I'll do the same thing. Alima is part of group EA, so I'm going to add a ya at the beginning of the word, and I'm going to put a sukun on the ayn, which is the fa kalima. Then I'm going to change the lam kalima, the ayn kalima, which is a lam here, from a kasra to a fatha, and it becomes ya'alamu. Alima ya'alamu. Hasiba yahsabu. Yahsibu. Qaruba yaqrubu. Daraba yadribu. Nasara yansuru. Fataha yaftahu. All of these are all conjugating with the huwa. Now if I go to hiya, I just change the ya to a ta. So tadhabu, ta'anamu, taqrubu, tadribu, tajlisu, all of these are being conjugated with hiya. It's very simple. Now for huma, it depends which huma you're talking about. Because huma can be sometimes referring to a man, yani they two men are going, or they two men are doing the action, or it can sometimes be referring to a woman, they two women are going. If you're trying to conjugate and speaking about a man, it's going to be yadhhabani, with a ya at the beginning. But if you're speaking about women, if I'm speaking about two women that left or that are going, I'm going to say tadhhabani. So it depends which gender the two people are. If they're masculine, yadhhabani. If they're feminine, tadhhabani. Just like it was yadhhabani and tadhhabani here, the ya for masculine, the ta for feminine. The ya is for masculine here also, and the ta is for feminine here also. In terms of the ending of the verb, it becomes a bit tricky here. You add an alif and a noon. You add an alif and a noon. Very simple. So if I'm conjugating any other verb, it's going to also be like this. Ya'anamani, ta'anamani, yaqurubani, taqurubani, and the list goes on. And then the fa'il, the do of the verb, is actually the alif there. The alif al-muthanna is called the alif al-muthanna. This is the do of the verb here. And also the alif al-muthanna is also the do of the verb here. Unlike here, where both these verbs, the fa'il, the one actually doing the action, is mustatirun, is hidden. And it's assumed that it's he or she. For whom it's yadhhabuna, so it's a ya at the beginning, but you add a waw and a noon at the end. And you put a dhamma on the lam al-kalima, or the lam al-kalima. يذهبون, they 3 men plus are going. And the fa'in here is waw jama'a, which is the waw that you see here, right here. Hunna is يذهبنا. يذهبنا means they, women more, yani 3 plus, are going. And the fa'in here is called nunu niswa, which is the noon that you see at the end right here. So that's for the third person, which is he, she, they. It's all conjugated like this. And obviously, you change it a bit depending on which group the verb is part of. For group AA, it will look like this. For any other group, it will just have to change the ayn kalima depending on which group it is, whether to a fatha or dhamma or kasra. Let's go to the second person, which is you. It's all we have in the English language, but in the Arabic language, obviously, it's much more detailed. So anta is tadhabu. Tadhab, which means you are going, masculine. So the only difference between tadhabu and yadhabu is again the ta. You change the ta, the ya to a ta, and it becomes anta. Now you might be asking yourself, didn't we do the same thing for hiya? Yes, tadhabu can mean hiya, she is going, or it can mean anta, you are going, depending on the context. So the context is going to let me know whether when I say tadhabu, it means you masculine, or it means she feminine. So if I'm speaking about a sister that left, I'm speaking to somebody else, and I say tadhabu, obviously that means she is going. Because we're speaking, the context lets me know that tadhabu here means she. But if I'm speaking to a brother face to face and I say tadhabu, obviously it means anta, because that's what the context is sort of clarifying. Anti is tadhabina. Tadhabina. So again, there's a ta at the beginning. In fact, for all of these, as you can see here, it's always a ta. And then at the end, I add a ya and a noon. And then I put a kasra on the lam kalima, tadhabina. It will be the same for all of the verbs. Tadarabina, ta'aramina, taqurubina, tajlisina, and then this goes on. And then the fa'il here is ya al-mukhataba, which is the ya that you see right here. This means you are going female. You 2 men are going and you 2 female are going take the exact same form. I don't differentiate between the 2 genders, unlike in the third person, where yadhabani was masculine and tadhabani was feminine. Here there's no difference. Tadhabani, tadhabani. And again, the context is going to let me know whether when I say tadhabani means antuma, you 2, or whether it means they 2 feminine. So the context is also going to let me know whether tadhabani means they 2 are going, third person huma, or antuma. Just like for anta and hiya. So there's 2 verb conjugations that are exactly the same. Hiya, which is tadhabu, and anta, which is tadhabu. The context is going to let me know. That's the first one. The second one that are exactly the same is the 2 antumas, tadhabani, with huma feminine, tadhabani. Now we also have antum and antunna. Antum is the same exact thing as hum, just that you change the ya to a ta. Yadhabuna, they are going. If I want to say you guys are going, tadhabuna. And again, the fa'il is also waw jama'a. Antunna, same exact thing. You just change the ya that was here in yadhabana, which means they 3 women plus are going, to ta tadhabana, you woman 3 plus are going. And again, nun and niswa is also the fa'il. And then the last one, which is the first person. Ana is very simple. You just add a hamza at the beginning. Adhabu, I am going. Adribu, I'm hitting. A'lamu, I know. The list goes on. And then for nahnu, also very simple. You just add a noon at the beginning. Nadhabu, we are going. So this is a very brief sense how you conjugate the fi'l al-mudari'. The best way to become good at this is just by doing verb conjugation. So you take a verb and you just conjugate it, using this video or using another video that explains to you how to do it. And if you do that multiple times, it will become like second nature, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.